Hey everybody, Matt Porter here for pbgametime.com. I'm here at my house in beautiful, sunny North Palm Beach County. It's a gorgeous day, as I mentioned, and we're going to give you 5 things you need to know for Wednesday, May 15th for the Palm Beach County sports scene, focusing on high schools. And we're also going to take some Twitter questions too. So, first thing, the last high school team alive is Jupiter Baseball. They're going to play in the state semifinals. This is the first time they've ever made state on Friday in Fort Myers at JetBlue Park, home of the Boston Red Sox spring training. They beat Pembroke Pines Flanagan last Friday night. That was the first time they'd ever made the regional finals, and they won their first regional championship. So a season of firsts for Jupiter Baseball, and we're going to get to speak with them later this week, so look for some coverage on that. Secondly, spring practice all this month. Spring games are next week. That's the big week of spring games. There have been spring practices up until now. We do have a couple games this week. Benjamin's going to be playing at Pompano Beach High on Friday night, and St. Andrews is hosting Highlands Christian out of Pompano Beach on Thursday at 6 p.m. So 2 games this week, a little bit of a light schedule. Things really get ramped up next week. Next, last night, yesterday afternoon, Palm Beach State Baseball won its first state championship in 29 years. 1984 was the last time Palm Beach State won. They were known as Palm Beach Junior College back then. Their nickname was the Pacers. Now they're the Panthers, and now they're going to Grand Junction, Colorado for the JUCO World Series. That begins May 25th, so we'll have plenty of coverage there. J.D. Underwood, the star of that game, pitched a complete game, his 7th complete game in his last 8 starts. Kid's got a rubber arm. He's out of Palm Beach Gardens. He's committed to the Miami Hurricanes. Also a draft prospect, so we'll see where he gets drafted there in June in the Major League Draft. So next, it's county softball last night, all-star softball game. 2-1, South County won. American Heritage's Whitney Ferris, the shortstop there, scored on an error, the go-ahead run in a 2-1 win. So that wraps up softball season with a nice bow. Also, high school basketball, we had Andrew Wiggins, the top recruit. Some are calling him the next LeBron James. He committed to Kansas yesterday, spurning, I guess you could call it, Florida State and Kentucky. So fan bases there not too happy about losing a player, 6'7", Andrew Wiggins, who is supposedly the next great thing in high school basketball. The last thing that we want to talk about now is our all area section. We are going to be releasing that in the next couple weeks. We're wrapping that up now, picking our players of the year. People are asking us about that. Players and teams of the year will be selected this week, and we're going to be bringing that out in the next couple weeks. So we'll get to Twitter questions now. And I put it out there on Twitter. Your questions. Let's go with a Q&A here. We have our first question comes from JMNPB. He's asking BCS caliber prospects in the Glades for the next couple of years. There are a few. Obviously, it's been a kind of a down period in the Glades. We did a story last year about how players are moving out of the Glades. They're moving to the western communities like Wellington, going to schools like Palm Beach Central and Wellington High and Green Acres and John I Leonard. Those schools, so kind of a migration from the Glades, but there is definitely still some talent left there, obviously. Really, the big BCS caliber prospects, definitely got to look at Rashawn Croney out of Pahokee. He's an athlete, can do a bunch of different things. He's being looked at by schools like South Carolina. At Glades Central, there's a whole bunch of prospects that I think D1 coaches are taking a long look at right now. Receiver Jerry Jones, Ronquavian Tarver, defensive lineman Stephen Leggett, offensive lineman Jashawn Scheider is a younger kid, he's a sophomore. So there is definitely talent there. Jay Strizzy 18 asks, the best kid that nobody is talking about. I'm assuming that she means football. And I would point to a sophomore is going to be a junior this year, and he's from the Glades too. But he plays for John I Leonard. It's wide receiver Tavares Martin, one of the best receivers in the county last year. Long, lean kid, about 6'2". I'd say he's listed at about 170, but he may be a little bit less than that. So he needs to put on weight, but just one of those natural receivers that you love watching out there on Friday nights. Hands and just tons of athletic ability. Was really probably their best receiver last year as a sophomore and one of the best in the county. Expecting big things out of him as a junior. Always a fun one. Quarterbacks. Chuck Sees Me. He asks, who would be the best quarterback this year in Palm Beach County, obviously, I'm assuming. And, there are a bunch. There are a bunch of good quarterbacks. I'm going to say the best two that I think, you have one, J.P. Caruso, who's been at Gardens, since he's been the starter at Gardens since he was a sophomore, and he's been really good. Now he's a senior and he's getting tons of, lower Division I looks. He doesn't have those big BCS offers, but as far as a high school quarterback, you can't ask for much more. I do worry about what he has around him, though, because he loses Frank Brown, who's now going to be playing at Bethune-Cookman, the wide receiver there. And then Daniel Parr from Dwyer. You talk about kind of the opposite of J.P. Caruso. He has all the weapons in the world. Johnny Dixon is the Florida State, Alabama offered receiver. Ezra Saffold, the speedy, smaller kid, and Clint Stevens, who's kind of a do-it-all weapon. Just tons of weapons, and if he can, put it together and improve on the sophomore season that he had last year, this year as a junior, he could be the best quarterback in the county. He has schools like Miami very interested in him, not verbally offering him yet, but we saw two Canes assistant coaches last week at practice taking a long look at him. And speaking of the Canes, and we go back to baseball, J.D. Underwood was the star, as I mentioned, of Palm Beach State's junior college state championship title game yesterday afternoon. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's a sophomore there. So this is his last year in junior college, and he's committed to Miami. Joe Corrala, who is a Canes fan, asks, have you heard anything about when Underwood may be drafted? And I've heard a few things. I've talked to a few scouts and a few agents, and it's hard to tell what the market is for J.D. Underwood as far as the draft goes. And this goes for a lot of kids too. Unless you're really a high-end draft talent this year, with the way the new system is in baseball, the new collective bargaining agreement that was signed, it makes it tough for anybody but the high-end picks to really get some money. So obviously it all comes down to dollars in these things. You weigh school against, is this team really going to blow me away with a signing bonus that they're offering me? So J.D. Underwood, he has high-end talent, and I don't know exactly where he's going to be drafted. So as I'm saying, it's hard to scout the market on these things. But high-end talent, but also a good academic kid, and he loves Miami baseball. From everything that I know, I could see him going to Miami. I could see him being drafted somewhere in the maybe the top 10 rounds. But is that going to with the way the draft picks are slotted, is that going to be enough for him to leave his commitment to Miami when he could play there for 2 seasons, get drafted after his junior season, and then get drafted after his senior season, so he has more chances to go higher in the draft? I see him going to Miami, so no matter where he gets drafted. So yeah, that's going to do it. First edition of, I guess you could call it, morning cup of coffee or something like that. I have my Boston mug here. Don't know what we're going to call this thing. We're just trying it out. Hope you guys like it, and I guess we'll see you soon.